About 50% of Americans support the legalization of cannabis for all purposes. Next slide. While 80% of Americans support medical cannabis. So what we see, next slide please, is that if you minus, there's kind of a strange statistic, right? Because it means that 30% of Americans say they support medical cannabis, but they have reservations about legalizing cannabis, right? And those are our swing voters. If we win them over, we win the battle. So that's who I think we need to focus on. Next slide, please. We need to win the support of these swing voters. We also need to deny their support to our opponents. And then ultimately what we need to do, the key to the path to legalization, is expanding that swing voter support from their support for medical to support for full access to cannabis for any purpose. So the swing voters are halfway there already. They understand that cannabis can be beneficial. They support some form of regulation because they already support a doctor's right to recommend, but they have reservations about legalization. I think that the source of those reservations come from the fact that any image they conjure of legalization is scary to them. Some of them actually think legalization means the cartels will be invited into their neighborhoods to sell weed and guns to kids on the way to school. Others have more reasonable concerns. They don't want their kids to walk into a 7-Eleven and walk past not only alcohol and tobacco, but also walk by the weed. They don't want to turn on the television and see commercials for cannabis. They're concerned that a system of legalization not lead their children into lifetimes of dependency. So what do we need to do? First, we need to take those swing voter concerns seriously. Sometimes they seem a little bit ridiculous, but we need to take them seriously and build systems of distribution that address those concerns. We need to build on their existing support for medical cannabis by creating responsible and regulated systems of distribution like we have done so effectively here in the Bay Area. Then we need to extend those models, Harborside, Berkeley Patients Group, Spark, Peace in Medicine, some of the outstanding examples of community-based cannabis distribution that we've pioneered here need to be extended across to every current medical cannabis state, ultimately across the United States. If we do that, if we create a well-regulated, responsible system of medical cannabis distribution across the country, we will be able to address the concerns of those swing voters. We will be able to present a model of cannabis distribution, legal cannabis distribution, that reassures them instead of scares them. Once we've accomplished that, once we have them at that point, then we advance scientific arguments about cannabis. We say, look, cannabis is safer than aspirin. Let's use the same standards that we use for any substance. Let's apply the same standard to all substances. So what do we know? We know that if aspirin is safe, so is cannabis, right? Aspirin kills 2,000 people in this country every single year. Cannabis, of course, has never killed anybody, ever. So the essence to this path to legalization, using wellness as a pathway to legalization, is that we have a retail network. It's already established across the country. It has reassured our fellow citizens that we can be trusted with what we are asking for, the responsibility that we're asking for. These shops will have demonstrated deep experience with cannabis and expertise in limited access to cannabis. Once that public trust is established, then we advance the scientific argument. Once the scientific argument is advanced, I'm confident that it can be won, and then we simply go to all of those existing facilities across the country and we flip the switch. They become adult full access facilities instead of medical cannabis facilities. That is my suggested and preferred strategy to get to legalization.